Ooh, what kind is that?
Strawberry watermelon.
Oh my God, it's full strength too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Ugh.
You know I don't do the half octane. Like
Oh my God.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of our podcast,
From Art to Atoms.
The Ultimate Curiosity Show. I'm Brandon Shoemaker,
And I'm Michael Foles.
and we decided we wanted to make a podcast that was about anything and everything.
I'm just here for the ride. He decided.
So we just want to have a lighthearted, fun conversation between two best friends who also happen to both be teachers. But this is not a teaching podcast. This isn't going to be about teachers and teaching, though we may have anecdotes.
I was going to say some of it may be. So we've been best friends for almost 20 years now.
Yeah,
It'll be 20 years next year.
I think so. Yeah.
And we've moved. We've lived in multiple cities, and now we're both in Texas. So it's been a long journey for us to get here, I guess, to share our thoughts. So, and we kind of thought that we would just basically share our conversations on a regular basis.
Yeah.
What these conversations are like for some 40-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah. We have conversations like this all the time, and you know, our friends who are around us find them mildly entertaining. So we figured, hey, maybe other people would find them mildly entertaining too. And so anyway, we're not just going to sit here and ramble every time at you like this. What we are going to do is we will have a specific theme for each episode, but we have a whole list of topics that is ever growing and ever expanding. So yeah, we're two bored teachers in the summer who are, you know, doing this just for fun. But I swear, we're going to get focused and actually talk about a topic. So today we are talking about something that is intimately familiar with both of us because it applies to both of us. And that is the concept of the Xennial generation.
Let's preface, though. Let's go ahead and give some context to this. So 2 nights ago, I guess, we were hanging out with some friends that are kind of in the same age range. And we were all talking about just how the Xennials kind of are the last... You know, they describe the Xennials as we were the last generation to play outside till the streetlights came on as a childhood before computers and technology, and then entered into our teen years, you know, mid-teen years, and then into college with computers and technology. So we kind of are the tail end of one great generation, but then also the beginning of the other end of the generation, or beginning of that generation also. So we're kind of like both in between there.
I feel like we should give a clear definition.
So what is your definition? What age range, I guess, or what years were Xennials?
So this is where show prep comes in handy. So according to a 2018 USA Today article, the Xennial Micro-Generation, as they refer to it, actually falls for folks who were born between the years of 1977 and 1983.
Okay.
And so I was born in 81.
I was born in 80.
So that
We're
definitely we
slapped right in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but now we've both talked to people who are, a couple years younger than us, as well as a couple of years older than us, who feel the same way. And I'll never forget the first time I ever saw the term Xennial was, I guess, right around when this article came out. It was probably 2017, 2018, somewhere in that neighborhood. A friend of mine, Jimmy, who he had posted on Facebook, have you ever felt like you don't really fit into either generation, the Gen Xers or the millennials? Well, that's because you might be born between these years, and you're actually a Xennial. But that's what it really seems that the differentiation and why this micro-generation exists is all because of technology.
Yeah.
And technological implementation. Here's the fun fact. When I was reading up for stuff for us to talk about with this today, Xennials are actually rather controversial. Some people argue that Xennials don't exist, that it's essentially what it said was there were some millennials who wanted to be extra millennial and say that they didn't fit into anything, and so they invented Xennials. But here's the caveat. If that were the case, then why would also the people who technically fall under Gen X feel the same way in the 77 to 80 range? So more context. So the traditional years for Generation X are those born between 1965 and 1980. And then the millennials fall from 1980 or 81, through 1996. But again, my friend Jimmy is a couple of years older than I am. And so he falls into that should be Gen X range. But he too, like the rest of us, it doesn't seem to fit with him. The Gen X stuff doesn't fit. And so it's because of some of these reasons that you were saying earlier that set us apart, because we are our micro-generation, bridges the gap.
Yeah, I would say, to those who say it's not a real thing, walk in our shoes and let us know how you feel. Like seriously, you'll never know what it's like to, and like we were saying the other night, our home computers came out when we were 15 and 13, I guess, or early teens, mid-teens.
Yeah.
And we really started kind of shopping for computers. And there was something on TikTok. There was a video that I watched last night that actually talked about, like, it was a CBS republishing of the CBS report that they did when a lady went into a Radio Shack and was looking at computers and had issues with that. And she needed to know how to turn the thing on. And she got home with her laptop. Laptop was probably about maybe 2 inches thick.
Yeah.
And so we talked about our first computers, like I remember our first family computer. The thing cost about $3,000 and it sat in the living room.
It was like a piece of furniture.
Yeah, it was on the computer desk. Like, we had to move couches out of the way to make room for this thing coming in. And, and there wasn't much to do on this computer. You could buy, your floppy disk games and install them from the floppy disk.
Mm-hmm.
There was no such thing as a CD-ROM yet. We didn't have CD games, and the internet was barely there. I don't even think the internet was there on my home computer at first, because the technology wasn't there for houses to have this hooked up to the phone lines. It wasn't there. The infrastructure wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so
I remember when we finally did get internet for the first time, we had to have the phone company come out to install a jack just for the computer, because we didn't have one near where the piece of furniture that was the computer sat.
Right. And I remember, like I said the other night, I remember buying my first laptop through Gateway and having it special ordered and have them ship it to my house. And that is really where, and I want to say that was maybe 99.
Mm-hmm.
So the very end of the century, we were just now where that became something. And even the internet back then, it was not, definitely not what it is today. It was very raw, very bare.
Yeah.
Websites were very crude. At this point, we've come a long way, obviously. But yeah, I think unless you've walked in their shoes, unless you fit in that category, don't say it doesn't exist. Almost like everything else,
Well, exactly. I mean, have you seen the I guess TikTok videos, but I see them on Instagram of the Gen Xers kind of clapping back at the millennials? They're essentially saying, yeah, okay, millennials, sure, come for us then. And they're saying, you don't know what it's like because we had to suffer through this and that.
I would agree with that. I mean, if they're going to say the same thing, like as far as you don't know what it's like, I agree. I'm not fighting that. Like, I will never know what it's like to grow up with an iPad in my face at age 2.
Exactly.
In a restaurant. I will never know what it's like that, to have that commonplace. And that's fine. But on the same end, they'll never know what it's like to be outside all day,
What model was your family's first computer? Do you remember?
You're making me go back almost 30 years. Hold on.
I'll tell you, I probably got you beat.
Go. What is yours?
So ours, it wasn't that brand, and I don't remember the actual brand name of ours, but it was compatible with the Apple IIe, with the old 5 1/4 floppy disks.
Yeah.
That we used to play Oregon Trail on in school and stuff like that.
Mine was a Tandy. I don't even know. That company's not even still around anymore. They're not even making anything beyond.
But you remember when we were in like elementary school, especially, that was the big day of the week when you got to go to the computer lab.
Yeah. And I remember also like being in high school and I think it was my speech classroom. I remember specifically had 3 computers in the back of the classroom that were not hooked up to the internet. There again, this is all before schools were wired up for that, but at least in the classrooms. Libraries, I think, had internet. We just used it as a word processor, and I mean, there was like Print Shop that you can make banners and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the old dot matrix printer banners.
Yep. That basically looked like a bunch of dots making some kind of mosaic.
So yeah, so for you millennials and Gen Zers, if we have any, the dot matrix printers literally pounded out little dots going across the screen or across the page.
Yeah.
And the paper, you had to have specialty paper to go in them that was, and this is why you could make banners, because the pages were all connected and perforated.
Mm-hmm. And you on the very end of it, you had like a spoke almost. There were puncture holes in the paper that would peel off when you were finished with it, but that would help feed it. It was almost like it would go into teeth on the side of the printer.
Yeah.
That it would move the printer paper forward while it was printing that, and then you just peel those off in a big. So that was actually kind of fun.
Yeah,
taking the paper and peeling it off, and then.
But now I was like kind of, even back then, kind of OCD, and so it would drive me crazy if I would peel it off and it wouldn't tear right, and it would tear part of the paper.
Oh, that you had to start over.
Yeah,
you might as well just start the whole project all over again.
Oh yeah, and especially if it was like an essay that I had to turn in or something, I was like, oh my god.
You're gonna have to find the sound effect to put that in there. So.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It was like. Bam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like Morse code or something.
Yeah,
it sounded like we were
sound effect on it.
You know, dot line, dot line. Speaking of sound effects, do you remember the dial-up sound?
Oh, absolutely. It was very distinctive. Very, very distinctive. And then when you know, because the only real, I guess, service provider was AOL at that point, or the browser.
We didn't have, our first was not AOL. We finally upgraded to AOL. I don't remember what our first one was.
I think our first one, well, I would say browser wise was AOL.
Yeah.
But service provider, I want to say, could be wrong, Netscape maybe.
Oh yeah. I
remember something dealing with net something.
I remember Netscape. Yeah.
I don't remember if that was it or not, but I do remember using that. You had to dial up onto that and then log into a different program to browse, which was again, it was either AOL. I don't think Yahoo was even a thing, because Yahoo wasn't Yahoo Ask Jeeves at one point, or that was Google. Google was Ask Jeeves.
Maybe, yeah. I remember Ask Jeeves.
Before Google, there was Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, but so my first, oh my God, yeah, I still have my first ever email account. I just realized that.
I still have my AOL. No, I haven't checked it in years, but I do remember my AOL account. It's probably still active somewhere with some 80,000 emails in it somewhere, but I do remember my original AOL account.
So this was before we ever got a home computer with internet, at least. But we had for one of my computer classes in high school, we had to create an email account, and we used Yahoo at the time. And I remember our teacher telling us about handles, and that was, what she said, you have to pick your handle and it has to be a unique handle. And so in that, in that process, we created our first email account, and I still have that same email account that I used up until a few years ago, when after Yahoo added the feature where you could link multiple email addresses to the same account. I came up with because it was a traditional internet handle like we had back in the day that people still do for like your Instagram name and stuff like that. But it was, it wasn't the greatest, and I was still having to put that on my resume. So I remember one time when I was changing, looking to relocate and change schools, I had to update my resume, and I was like, I cannot put my email address, my personal email address on here. So that's when I added a second email address to that same account, that was just Brandon.Shoemaker, and then some numbers to the email address.
Yeah, could you imagine having the kids develop a handle right now? As a teacher,
yeah,
I would not want to say, okay,
No.
we're going to create a handle, because, Lord, just having them create handles when we do kind of reviews online. If you're not a teacher, there are these different programs that you can use to do reviews. Kahoot is one of them. It's almost like it turns questions into a game show, and the kids can compete against each other.
It's like review questions in Jeopardy style.
Yeah. So when we log on, we can play live with them, and they have to create a handle right away. And you're always like, make it school appropriate. Do not put something on there. And there's always one or two that wants to put on there. I'm like, if I don't know who you are, you don't get any points today.
Yeah.
So I just looked up early browsers, history of the web browser.
Oh.
And yeah, it was Netscape. Netscape and Microsoft were the two competing in 94, 96 time frame. And I'll tell you, I guess we all know who won that one, Microsoft versus Netscape.
Yeah, when's the last
the
time
fact that Microsoft is still around and Netscape is not. So there is let's see.
But now I wonder if Netscape like had a merger with somebody or something like that.
I don't think that they work in the browser world anymore, but the company is still around. It just doesn't, because they used to be a Navigator too. So in 97, it looks like Internet Explorer was one, Netscape Navigator was one, Mozilla came out in 98. And then obviously every single year, Safari, interesting enough, Apple Safari 1.0 came out in 2003, which is a lot later than I thought it was.
Yeah, I figured Safari's that came out when the new iMac, you remember the Blueberry iMac?
Yes, early college years, where it was basically open in the or clear in the back.
Yeah.
And you could see all the inner workings. Let's talk about 1990s stuff, man. Every single thing had to have like a clear thing. Remember those dial-up phones?
Oh god, that was a lot earlier than 97.
That was the
80s
touch-tone phone.
Yeah,
that had the clear. You could see all the inner workings and the wires and stuff like that. I don't know what
I had
fascination it was with that.
That was the first room phone that I ever had.
Yeah,
I got a phone line added to my room, and that was my phone. Was the clear?
I didn't have a phone in my room. I didn't care that much to talk to people.
But yeah, that technology line is sort of what sets the Xennials apart, I think. Like you said earlier, we remember both in our childhood. We have that point in our childhood that was pre-technological, analog, if you will. Mm-hmm. I remember even before because we lived not out in the country really, but it was a neighborhood that was far enough out of town that we didn't even have cable for the longest time. I was in 7th grade when they finally ran the cable lines out to our neighborhood. And so I vividly remember the days of only about 4 or 5 channels if you were lucky with the UHF signal.
No, I grew up in a suburb of a major city, so we did have cable growing up. But I remember not having remote control. I remember having the cable box on top of the television.
That you had to get up.
And you had to get up and change the channel.
You were
manually.
The remote control for the adults.
Yes,
that's what.
Yes, I remember having to change that. And the cable box itself was basically some buttons that you would press.
Yeah.
That would pop in and out. When you pressed it down, it would pop down, and everything else would pop up.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You had to determine what you were watching there. I do remember that. But yeah, we had cable growing up.
Yeah, we did not. I was in 7th grade. 7th grade before we got cable, and then it was off to the races from there.
That's why we're both still fat. We've discovered television. That was the end of that.
Yeah. I was a huge television fanatic back in the day. When I was a kid, and that's years later I realized that's where I got my sense of humor from, was from watching sitcoms, particularly things like of course the Golden Girls, Designing Women, but also Murphy Brown. Did you ever watch Murphy Brown?
I did.
Yeah.
Seinfeld was a big one, but that was late 90s.
I never really got into Seinfeld. Honestly, I think it competed with something else that I regularly watched, and so I never really got around to seeing it. My other best friend Charlotte is a huge Seinfeld fan. That really, she's a George Costanza fan. We'll have to have her on the show sometime,
and we'll have to get George Costanza on there too.
Yeah. I actually got to see Jason Alexander perform in a play one time. It was I forget the name of it. It was a John Patrick Shanley play, not the Cincinnati Kid. It was the Portuguese Kid. That was it, the Portuguese Kid. But he was, because there are a lot of times when you have screen actors that don't do so well on stage, and vice versa for that matter. But he was phenomenal. I
think he was a theater person before.
That's right. Yeah, he might have been.
I think again.
Yeah.
Because in most of the stuff that you've seen him in nowadays, like in Young Sheldon when he was playing the theater teacher in Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
I think he thrived on that, and he's done a lot of theater since coming off of television on a regular role.
Yeah.
I think that's where his first passion was. So
that's a topic for another podcast because I'm a theater teacher. So
he can talk about theater by himself, and it's still, you would never know the difference.
He doesn't like to admit it, but he's just as much of a thespian as I am. He got bitten by the acting bug.
I still have the scar to prove it.
Huh?
I still have that scar to prove it. That bite mark.
Again, another podcast, another topic. So in this article that came out back in 2018 about Are You a Xennial, they linked at the bottom, as any good online article does now, to a quiz that actually came from The Guardian to find out if you are a Xennial. So I thought it would be fun for us to
Are we taking this together?
Take
or
this quiz
separately?
Yeah, just for fun. So question number 1: how Xennial are you? Is the title of this quiz. So question number 1: you used a dial-up modem to do school or uni research. It's The Guardian. It's a British newspaper, of course. To do school or uni research, despite having been repeatedly told that you couldn't trust anything on the internet. Parenthetically, it says, and the dial tone still haunts your nightmares.
Yes, I wouldn't say the dial tone still haunts my nightmares. However, I did use it at school, in high school.
Well, and so I want to talk about the second part of this question for a second. It says, despite having been repeatedly told that you couldn't trust anything on the internet. I swear, this is not going to be a teacher podcast. But that is still one of the biggest fights I have with students today, is they assume that if it's on the internet, then it must be true.
Yes, that is a fight. However, as a science teacher, I would say if you can back up with evidence, go for it. But I will tell you, in their research, for me, one of the biggest things is that they're told that Wikipedia is not a source. Do not use Wikipedia as a source at all. And I understand that, but as a science teacher, if you can find the evidence to support whatever you're saying, I would say go for it. But do not. I will tell you, because my husband is wrapped up in TikTok and other social media apps, and he'll come to me and tell me that, hey, did you see, or hey, did you hear? And my first thing to him, and mind you, he is the same age as I am, 44, or will be 44 in September. My first question to him is, what is your source?
Yeah.
And he usually follows up with TikTok. Like, he's embarrassed and he knows exactly what I'm going to tell him. So, just know your sources. And again, if you can back it up with scientific evidence, go for it.
Well, and that's the problem that I see a lot with my students is, they're taking, as gospel, whatever, Sally Jane on TikTok.
Yeah, they get their
said.
news from TikTok. They get their news from Instagram. They get their news from social media sites instead of a reputable news source.
Exactly.
Which, and TikTok to me is the same thing, and Instagram is the same thing as Wikipedia, because anybody can publish anything.
Yeah.
Let's say you get on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, I guess, X. It sounds so dirty, which is why I hate saying it.
Yeah.
I'd rather just say Twitter. I think that it's just, anybody can publish anything on there, and it is, you've got to check your sources on that. It's dangerous. I mean, I hate saying that we live right now in a world where politicians, and I know one in particular that is on there every single day with no real, that's a whole nother conversation too. Anyway, she's on there. It's a she, but she's always on there saying the most outlandish and absurd things. And there's no backing for anything. And it's almost like her opinion to some people becomes fact. Her opinion becomes truth. And that's the problem we see. You should always, I don't care what political party you fall into, check your sources, man.
Absolutely.
Don't go on. Do not, just because you have a microphone, you have a responsibility to speak truth and use evidence. And that's what I tell the kids all the time. If you can find evidence to support what you're saying or support your research, then I'll take it.
Right.
But okay, what's the next question? Go. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
Okay. So the next question is interesting for me. Well, I think for both of us. Question number 2. You remember Boy George the first time he became famous?
Did he become famous the second time?
Thank you. That's what I was going for.
Did he have a resurgence somewhere?
He did. Well, he's had a couple, actually. When he did that show Taboo, it was kind of like a in the 90s, in the late 90s, I think it was. He kind of had a resurgence then. And then he's had another one recently, I think, hasn't he been on like RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that?
You're asking the wrong person here.
Sorry.
I'll have to phone a friend on that one because I do not know. Oh no, I thought he was
watched Drag Race.
Not religiously, not.
You watch it more than me.
I've watched it when the husband has watched it. Now he watches it religiously. He can tell you all their names. I have no idea who was who.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's what I mean. You've watched with Thomas.
No,
so.
yeah, Boy George was just part of Culture Club in the early 80s. Like,
yeah, I mean, I remember Boy. This is gonna sound bad for my dad, but I remember Boy George as a little kid because my dad never knew what to make of him. I think
he was a cultural chameleon.
Okay, question number 3. You owned New Kids on the Block merch.
Oh. Let's not go there. Oh, I was forced to go to a concert one time. I have a twin sister and she was all about New Kids on the Block, and my mom, because we were 8 years old, could not leave me at home by myself and had no babysitters. So I, Christmas morning, remember distinctly, opened up an envelope which I thought was cash from the tree, only to find out that it was New Kids on the Block concert tickets in my face. And the picture that we still have was just like, WTF, mate. Like, what is this? And again, I was forced. Maybe that's where I hate concerts now because I don't understand the hype behind getting all involved in it, I guess. I sit there at the concert and I'm like all closed up in my chair, like the person sitting next to me, like, don't touch me, don't come near me, we're not friends, we're experiencing this, but I am not here on my own volition. I do remember that, yes. So my sister had New Kids on the Block hat, t-shirt. I was forced to go to the concert and surrounded in the nosebleed sections by 80 million little screaming teenage girls, which was horrible. Yes.
But so deep down in your heart, you kind of enjoyed it, didn't you?
No, I can honestly say I didn't.
Okay. Fair enough. I had their first album on cassette tape.
Hanging Tough.
Mm-hmm. And a friend of the family got it for me, and maybe he knew more than I did about myself back then. But
well, if he did and he knew, did you ask for it or did he just get it?
No, I didn't ask for it. I wasn't one of the super fans like your sister or anything like that. I had the album. I listened to it. I thought it was catchy, and that was about it. I had no merch other than the album. But that was about it. Question number 4 is a good one. You made a mixtape for someone you fancied, and it was on a tape.
I made a mixed CD. Let me say that. A mixtape would have come from, I guess, before I knew what the reason for making a mixtape was for, you know?
Oh, okay.
But I will say at 12 years old, I did call a girl and play a song live from the radio. Like I did, I had a cassette tape and I did press play when she answered the phone and put the phone up to that. I remember locking myself in the bathroom doing that so no one would know what I was doing. I do remember that.
Oh, so wow.
I would not say that's a mixtape, but I did make mixed CDs. Yes.
Now I remember making mixed tapes actually on tapes. I didn't give them to anyone or
maybe that's
like
it.
That.
Now, I do remember like having the radio station, like play the song and you're sitting there waiting for the top 10 to come on or something, and you're waiting and you hear your song and you miss the first 10 seconds of the intro.
Because the
and
DJ
would always talk over the intro and you're like, shut up, dude. I need this to sound like it came from the LP. I do remember doing that though.
Yeah, that counts.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I did. That's how I made my mixtapes too. I didn't have enough money for a bunch of CDs. Do you remember what your first CD was that you ever bought?
I remember my first cassette.
Do you?
I do.
What was that?
No way, man.
Come on.
No way, man.
I can edit it out. I just want to know now.
The Little Mermaid.
Was it really?
It really was. I remember. I don't remember where we bought it from. Probably Sam Goody or somewhere in the mall. But I remember getting that cassette tape, and I distinctly remember the cover. It was a white cover with just kind of a gold-plated square in the middle of it with the scene from the movie. But it was that, and I remember having a portable battery-operated radio cassette player, and I would listen to that all the time. All the time. I remember distinctly which one I bought. Yeah. And I will also say The Wizard of Oz was also one of my first ones too.
Oh, really?
It was.
Yeah, see?
My mom should have knew then.
The friend of Dorothy from an early age.
Yeah, I do remember Little Mermaid being, and I still have the cassette actually, which is kind of weird. Yeah. And that was when, the Disney resurgence came through, the Renaissance. They call it Disney Renaissance.
Yeah, well, because Little Mermaid was the first one they did in how many years was it?
It wasn't. That was the first one that took off, because remember, Oliver and Company came before that, right before it.
Oh, that's right.
Or The Rescuers. The
Rescuers 2.
No, The Rescuers 1. The Rescuers Down Under came after.
I thought The Rescuers was like in the 60s or something for some reason.
Mm-mm.
Oh, wow. I've always been an old soul, and so I was watching Disney movies that were from the 60s and 70s when I was a kid. So
no, but I remember buying, when the Renaissance happened, buying Little Mermaid, and then Beauty and the Beast came out, and then Aladdin came out, and then Lion King came out, and then Pocahontas. I remember every time it came out, I would buy one of those cassette tapes, and I still have all of those.
I remember. So I guess the last real Disney movie that I went to see in theaters still as a kid probably was Lion King. And I do remember buying the cassette of that.
Yeah. I remember, I don't think I went to the theater. I think we saw Beauty and the Beast in the theater. And the only reason I remember that is because at the end of the movie, when he reveals himself to be human, Mom was like, he's kind of hot. And I was like, oh my goodness, Mom, no. No. I do remember that. But I don't remember.
I mean, she wasn't wrong.
I think that's probably why I was like, no, he's mine. I don't remember much about going to theaters to see that kind of stuff. I do remember buying them though. And I remember also we had a video rental store called Video Plus where I was from. And every Friday, Mom would let us go pick out a movie. And you can guarantee for probably about a year and a half, every Friday, my movie was Little Mermaid.
Oh, wow.
I was enamored by it. I think it was the combination of the artwork and the music itself, but I was just enamored by it. And I remember that.
So I have an interesting story from when The Little Mermaid came out. How old were you when it came out?
It came out in 89, so I was 9 years old.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking I was 8. So that was right. So when The Little Mermaid came out, it was around the same time that Look Who's Talking came out. And I remember, so one of my favorite things that I would do on any Christmas break or summer break with my mom, who was also a teacher, so we had the same, when I was off, she was off. One of our favorite things was to go to the movies, and we would go to matinees when it was only us and one other person or one other, small family or something, in the movie theater. And when we went, this is how long ago it was. It was when there were only 2 theaters in the movie.
You mean
house.
2 screens? There were
2 screens. Yeah, there we go. Two screens in the theater.
Yeah.
And so there were only 2 movies playing at the time, and one was Look Who's Talking, and the other was The Little Mermaid. And I remember walking in and seeing, we were going to see Look Who's Talking. And I remember seeing the poster for Little Mermaid, and I, a little pang of little child angst kind of hit me. I didn't say anything about it, but I was like, oh, I would really love to see that. But I knew I was not supposed to want to see that because it was supposed to be a girl's movie. And that was like one of my first moments, I guess, of
you can't play with Barbies, you must play with G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it was this sort of baked in, homophobia.
I didn't have those feelings at all at that age. I guess
really?
9 and 10. No, I was like, a movie's a movie. I think my mom was the same way. It's just a movie. It didn't matter.
That's good.
But then again, I also had a sister. So
true. And then you got dragged to New Kids and things like that. I was an only child, so I didn't have anybody to use as an excuse. So,
all right, next question.
Okay, next question. You remember when floppy disks were actually floppy?
Yes.
Question number 6. You had one of these, and it is a picture of
a Walkman,
a Sony Walkman.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
That was when we would go on field trips at school. We would always go to the zoo or somewhere else. So that was the big thing. You had to have your fanny pack with you, which allowed you to store your Sony Walkman in the front and have the headphones on so you could listen to music while you were walking around the zoo and stuff.
Yep.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Mine was neon green. My fanny pack, that is. I never had quite exactly the thing that the other kids had. So I never had a true Sony Walkman. I always had some other name brand that, but it's not a Walkman. You don't have a Walkman. So I had something. Although now the one thing that I was always had the leg up on everybody else. Do you remember when after Home Alone 2 came out, the Talk Boy?
Yes. The recorder that had the microphone attached to it that you can modify.
Yes, and you could speed it up or slow it down to change your voice. I had the Talk Boy.
Yeah.
And that that's so cool. So I made up for never having a Walkman because I had a Talk Boy. Okay, number 7. You were able to get your full name without numbers or full stops into an email address at the beginning of the internet.
What?
Like, in other words, Brandon Shoemaker at yahoo.com, which I never had simply because our teacher told us about handles and had us make a handle.
Oh, you're talking about because no one had
claimed it
invented
already.
it yet. Yeah. No, I didn't do that because again, our names were private. I wouldn't have put my name out there anyway.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, back then, I don't think that was I think that was probably discouraged, if anything.
Yeah, you did not put your name out there at all, especially as a 10 or 12-year-old.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make my first email account until I was in high school when that happened.
Yeah, well, I didn't use my name.
So, but yeah, in fact, I think that might have been part of the lesson was you don't want your name.
Let's reword the question though, because like your handle, any combination of handle now at this point that I could think of, someone probably already has.
Yeah.
So I will say that, yes, I do remember my original handle was probably late 90s. I don't remember what my first ones were.
Well, I remember my first one, I did have to add I had to add the numbers for my address.
Yeah, I don't
to
remember.
It because it was taken. I'll be the embarrassing one, or the embarrassed one. I was obsessed with mythology in high school, Greek mythology. Mm-hmm. So particularly the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Oh, I had this dream Orpheus. You just gave out my email address to the whole world. Thanks. I still have that one. That's the one I still have. But no, so Orpheus was what I wanted it to be, but that was actually already taken. So it's not like I tried my name.
You still actively use that?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. I'll give out mine in fairness, and I don't even use mine anymore. Mine was because I moved to Virginia Beach and I had a Jeep.
Oh.
VB Jeep 99.
Oh, VB Jeep. Okay.
Virginia Beach Jeep 99 because it was a 99 Jeep Wrangler. That was one of my first ones I remember.
Yeah.
But I don't remember my original AOL one.
No, I remember your Cajun Jeep email address because that was the email that so back in the day when we first met, we actually met online. That was his handle at the time.
Cajun this is Jeep. Pre-apps. This is where you had to go into the chat rooms and meet people in your area and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we didn't have chat apps or anything. We had chat rooms. So next question. Your first computer games came on cassette tapes and usually ended in an error message.
Cassette tapes? Computer games on cassette tapes?
I think
mine came on floppy disk.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to install the program on floppy disk.
Yeah.
Or run it from the disk itself.
Run it from the disk. Yeah. That's what mine did.
Yeah. Like I remember Carmen Sandiego was on a disk.
Yep.
And then when you got to a certain point in the game, you had to
switch disks.
Eject the disk. Yeah, it would prompt you to eject the disk and install disk 2.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. I remember I've been a Jeopardy fan since I was a little kid. And I remember a Jeopardy game came out for that first computer that we had, the Apple IIe knockoff. And it was so much fun, and you were playing and everything. And then I realized after playing like 3 times, maybe the questions started to cycle back because it only had enough storage on that floppy disk for enough questions for about like three or maybe 4 games.
Yeah, I remember playing Wheel of Fortune on the PC. Let me find this really fast. I didn't show you this one, did I?
Mm-mm.
Did I show? Maybe, yeah, I did the other night.
No.
Vanna White, or the person who was turning letters, had red hair, and she had like green skin, yellow skin, and a green
I didn't
dress.
see that.
It was 3 colors. Oh yeah, 1987. I remember playing this one. 1987. She legit had 3 colors.
Oh wow.
Vanna with red hair and yeah. Let's see. It was very crude.
And that single tone music is
so
recognizable.
I do remember that 1989, or it came out in 87. Yep.
Oh my god, make it stop.
It's almost over. How many players? You can only play 3 players, and you had to press F1, F3, and F5 to determine what was going on there with player numbers.
Oh.
And then it was very, very crude. Very crude. But I remember this being our game. Like, we played this game. She's spinning the wheel.
Oh, I thought we were having a malfunction with the microphone.
So, yeah, I remember that. And then, let's say, I mean, we're talking about the Nintendo came out too. Like, I didn't even bring that up yet, but Nintendo came out in 86, 87, I guess. But it really hit homes. You were able to buy the system itself around 88, 89. I remember that being crude also.
Yeah, I got Nintendo later. I mean, not a lot later, but I remember my cousins, David and Emily, got a Nintendo original NES.
Yeah, you were definitely the star of the block. If you had one of those,
oh yeah,
everyone was at your house playing 2 or 3 games that you had access to on the game's cartridge system at that point. Because you have to remember the cartridges, even Mario, the original Mario, came with the game with Duck Hunt.
Yes.
With the system. But anything beyond that, you're looking at, I think they were like $80 a game, or between $50 and $80. I remember.
Oh, it was crazy.
Games. Yeah.
And I mean, video games are still astronomically high, I think. But this was before you had GameStop and places like that where you could, buy used games and whatnot. That was your only option. Have you seen recently, or maybe you already knew this, I did not, but did you know that in the original Duck Hunt, you could control the duck with the second control input?
No.
Yeah. I saw that just recently. Well, now, and let me clarify, since we talked about this earlier. I haven't fact-checked this.
He saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, I haven't fact-checked this. Well. I didn't see it on TikTok. It was on Instagram. So it might have originated from TikTok again, but who knows? But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh.
Check your sources, people.
Wish I had it. Yeah, I know. I'd have to just... Well, if I had an NES laying around, then I would hop on there and check it for sure. Because I would want to be able to control the duck.
I still have my NES.
Do you?
Yeah.
Your original?
Yeah.
I knew you had your 64.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We need to break that thing out then. That's awesome. Does it still work? Do you know?
That I don't know.
It'd be worth finding out. Anyway. Okay. We're still not through this quiz.
Question 10. You can remember when this amazing phone came into being. This is the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Nokia.
So I didn't have that exact model. That was the one that had the slide down face cover, but I had the one, I guess, that was right after that. And that was that. Now that was the interesting thing. As soon as I started driving, I had a cell phone that was purely so that my parents could keep track of me, which today is like a commonplace thing. But at that time, I was the only one of my friends who had a cell phone, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's so cool. You have a cell phone. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not allowed to use it like ever unless it's to call and tell. Because you remember how we were always charged by the minute back then?
Yeah, you had free weekends and nights.
Oh, this was even before free weekends and nights.
I remember that stuff. Yeah, I remember it was per minute.
Yeah. And it was expensive too. It was like $2 a minute or something. But I was not allowed to use that except to report in to mom and dad that I had arrived safely at X location or Y location.
Yeah. I didn't get my first phone until I was 19.
Yeah, I had one, but it was
99. I got it from the Walmart kiosk.
Oh, really?
In the middle where they were selling Nokia phones. And I remember I had to hide it from my mom because if my mom found out I had a phone, she was going to flip her lid. I told my sister and she's like, you better hide that. I remember hide it under my bed so mom would not find it.
Oh, wow.
And this was the one that had the detachable faceplate. You could change it up, the colors and everything like
that.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember that. I think I still have a model of that phone somewhere at the house.
Oh, wow.
Buried. It's probably worth $10 now, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the next question. Again, this is later, so it's not a 80s kind of question. It's a 90s kind of question, late 90s.
Yeah.
You never thought it was weird that Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sunnydale had the kind of internet that allowed Willow to constantly hack into the mayor's office, but no one had cell phones. And I will also stress on this, the quality of her internet.
Yeah,
she could go up to the computer and start typing it. Their results were instantaneous.
I
do remember that.
I never had access to that kind of internet at that time.
Okay, this one's kind of weird. You had or still have a Hotmail account. Hotmail is still pretty relevant, so I don't know why that would be in there.
Is it still relevant?
I have a Hotmail account.
I think you might be the only one.
I'm okay with that too. You can still remember your landline number. Yes, that's probably the only telephone number I do remember. I just know my mom's number right now at this point is 1, hold down 1 or hold down 2 and it calls her. Well, there is no holding down 2 anymore. It's just calling a contact, I guess now at this point. But I do remember my landline, which is great when you're making passwords.
Oh, yeah.
Because no one would ever associate a landline with it. And it could go all the way into 10 digits with an area code of 3 and then telephone number of 5 or 7 digits. So a 10-digit number is very easy to get passwords for.
Yeah.
So
I used to use the last 4 digits of my landline as a PIN, but they won't let me anymore because the last 3 digits of my landline were 3339.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no, that's too similar. You have to change it up. And I was like,
yeah,
but that was my number. Nobody's going to guess that.
All right. So the next question, this is kind of funny. And again, I haven't seen these questions before. He did the prep. I didn't. So you can remember when you first heard about a website called Google, and before that had to Ask Jeeves. And before that was the World Book Encyclopedia.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just preface. Ask Jeeves, if you don't know what it was. Ask Jeeves. Jeeves was the butler, so he would be the guy you would send off in a search. He'd come back with results. I guess that was the image they wanted to project on that. World Book Encyclopedia, we used to watch commercials trying to sell encyclopedias to little kids. Remember that aggravating guy that was in the commercial that would be like rude to the announcer?
Yes, I forgot about the commercials.
And he would always try to sell those encyclopedias. We had our encyclopedias were blue covered, hard. We had a full set.
What year were yours? Do you remember?
I think it was like 92 or something.
Oh, y'all were rolling in it then, because mine were that my parents had them from before I was born, so I think they were like 77, maybe 78.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't have it back then.
It was an old set to where they were already, looking things up as a young kid. They were out of date and obviously so.
All right, so let's see. The next question is, you were actually scared the first time you saw the Goonies.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't scared. I was like, where is this water slide and when can I get on it? Like, where is One-Eyed Willie's boat?
Yeah.
Where's his ship? And let's go cave exploring right now. But I wanted to be a Goonie.
Oh, absolutely. Who didn't want to be a Goonie?
I wanted to be a Goonie.
No, I actually saw a meme on Instagram here several weeks ago that actually was talking about Xennials, and it said, I officially make a motion that Xennials should
all be called Goonies.
It should heretofore be referred to as the Goonies.
I agree with that 100%.
I 100%.
Yeah, I definitely I want it to be when they got on that water. It wasn't a water slide, I guess. In the film, it wasn't. At least it was a cavernous, water river or something like that. You know, they had to go fly. I wanted to do that. I want to become a pirate hunter. I want to be a treasure hunter. I guess, because we want to be that.
No, the part that scared me in the Goonies was when he lifted One-Eyed Willie's eye patch.
Oh yeah, and there was nothing there.
And for whatever reason, that's what scared me. And what was her name? The mother. They just called her Ma.
Yeah,
I don't remember what her actual name was. She scared me too. She was kind of scary.
The Fratellis.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Something like that. Yeah. But no, but I was always, I don't know. Maybe it was like gruff women that I was scared of Large Marge too.
And Sloth didn't scare the crap out of you though? Like,
no, I thought Sloth was just like misunderstood and
he was
tragic.
Yeah. Mama Fratelli.
Mama Fratelli.
Anne Ramsey played her. She, I kind of liked her though. She didn't scare me at all.
I think it was the fact that she spit when she talked. Maybe it was less that it was scary and more just gross.
She was like a mobster kind of mom. She
had
2 henchmen and her sons, and but yeah, it was the Fratellis.
I found that scary.
Now, Large Marge scared the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Large Marge.
That was so. Michael is a big Pee-wee fan.
I love Pee-wee Herman. I think Paul Reubens as a comedian was excellent. Rest his soul. You know, we lost him this year, I think, didn't we? It was late last year. Or
this past year. Yeah. I didn't dislike his humor as a kid, but Large Marge was the reason why I wouldn't watch that movie after the first time.
Oh no, I could sit down and watch that movie tonight. In fact, I may find it. I have it on DVD. How scary is that? Because it's not streaming. I can find it on DVD, and I may watch that tonight.
Well, you have fun.
Yeah, I'll go hunting for the basement in the Alamo.
Oh my god, this is a long quiz.
Yeah, I skipped a couple of questions because some of those weren't relevant.
Oh no, I do like this one. You can't remember which of these Coreys was your first movie star crush, and it's Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Oh, I remember who it was.
Who was yours?
It was Corey Haim.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine was Feldman.
Yeah, Corey Haim. And he's dead also now.
Yeah.
Feldman's still alive and been through a lot, but he's dead. Haim is dead, but yeah, no, I remember he played Lucas.
Yeah.
He played Lucas.
Yeah.
As a young kid. And what else was he in?
God, I don't remember. I can't remember now. I saw all of them though. And I loved them together. But I can't think of a single one that they were in together now.
Yeah. No, Haim was for me for sure.
You remember calling friends on the family landline and having to say hi to their mom or dad first.
Or their older sister, who was always, that was us. My older sister is 11 years older than me, and I have a twin sister, and my older sister would always be on the phone, and I remember the phone was always a long cord to the receiver, and so she would always just sit on the phone talking, but yeah, she'd answer the phone mostly.
Did y'all have of course you did, everybody did, the super long kitchen cord?
Yeah, that's the one. She would drag the cord from the kitchen, the wall from the kitchen, and she would sit in a chair in the living room or recliner and then have the cord also.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Ours didn't reach that well because the way our house was laid out, there was a hallway down past the kitchen before you could get to the living room. Oh, and then the last question on the quiz is, you thought call waiting was the technological advance of a generation.
I didn't. I thought answering machines were the technological advance of a generation. I thought when you could set that little answer machine up.
Yeah.
And mind you, answer machines at that point had the very little cassettes.
Yes.
That you'd have to plug into the actual recorder, and it would click on after so many. You could set how many rings you wanted to before it would activate.
Our first answering machine actually took the full size cassette tapes.
Oh yeah, no, ours was the micro.
And it was
cassettes.
I think it took 2 for. Oh, that's right, because we had one cassette for the greeting, and then the other cassette was what you recorded or that would record the messages on.
Because I think call waiting. I don't remember using the phone. Call waiting was already in existence. I don't think that was a new thing. I wasn't a 6-year-old on the phone calling everybody.
No, call wait. Well, we didn't. I remember when call waiting came out, but we didn't pay for it for the longest time. We didn't get call waiting until late. Now we did. Now when I do remember caller ID becoming a big thing, because we would have a lot of crank calls and prank calls and stuff like that when I was a kid.
Usually did the prank calls.
Huh?
We were usually the ones doing the prank calls.
Oh, my mom would have killed me if I was making prank phone calls or something. But no, we got as soon as caller ID became available, we subscribed to that or added that to our plan or however it worked back then. I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but no, I think the Xennial Micro-Generation is totally a real thing, because the Xennial collective, the Goonie collective, have never really fit into either category, and that's always been, something that I remember thinking about whenever they would talk about Generation X. And then I remember thinking, well, what generation am I? And then eventually when they came out with the term millennial, I was like, well, that doesn't sound like me at all. So I remember, these, however many years ago that was, almost 10 years now, I guess, when I first saw the term Xennial, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. Are you okay? So are you ready for the trivia section?
Yeah. So how is our trivia section going to work? Like, how is this going to work?
So at the end of every show, we're going to, originally I had planned for us each to take a trivia, because both of us love trivia, and we always love a good competition where we can, say, haha, I beat you to the other one. And my original thought was we would each take a Trivial Pursuit card and just go down the list, taking turns asking each other questions, and whoever got the most right wins. And then in preparation for today, I realized that I don't actually have a version of Trivial Pursuit anymore.
But also this problem that you're having with this board game, because you asked me if I had a board game with Trivial Pursuit at home today. I want to point out this is also a Xennial issue, because you do have technology.
A Xennial issue? A Xennial issue?
Xennial, sorry.
Xennial.
Sorry. This is a Goonie issue.
This is the Goonie issue.
Because you do have technology that can pull up Trivial Pursuit.
No, you can. I looked that before.
It doesn't have to be Trivial Pursuit. You can look up Trivial Pursuit. I mean, you can look up trivia questions.
Well, yeah, but no, because I thought this would be a kind of a cool thing. We could do it from different trivia games. So anyway, the one that I have that we can use today is, and I don't know, they don't make this anymore. They only made it, I think, for a short time in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I love it, and I have loved it. Have I made you play this before?
This is 1992, Boo. This is like early 90s.
Oh, 92. Okay, well, it's even older than I thought. Oh, yeah, when you look at the pictures on the back of it, it definitely screams 1992. But anyway, so the questions are a little outdated, but...
so are we.
It's exactly. But the questions are great because all the answers to the questions start with the same letter. So you give the person the letter to start with, and then they have to answer all of the questions. And then you have this like dummy give me question at the top that you have to answer correctly before you can get the go ahead to answer the whole.
Okay, so
card.
Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first?
Okay, then I'll go first. All right. So, true or false, the Monroe Doctrine was named after its founder, Marilyn Monroe.
That is false.
Correct. Okay. All right. So, your letter is W.
Okay.
So, all your answers are going to start with W.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Wait. Are we keeping track of how many points I get?
Well, it's all down one.
I understand that, but how are you going to know? Are you going to keep in mind how many I get?
We'll tally them up afterwards.
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be rapid fire. This is supposed to be set to a timer that I think gives you 30 seconds. Anyway, okay.
I'll keep them. I'll finger it.
I
will keep the how many I get correct on my fingers. I will count my fingers. Okay.
Your digits.
Yes.
Okay. Businessmen's airborne shoes. Do you want the answer?
Yes.
Wingtips.
Never heard of that.
You've never heard of wingtip shoes?
No.
You've worn wingtip shoes in Annie. They have the little white bits on them that go out to a tip that look like wings.
I didn't wear that. I was in a wheelchair in Annie. No one looked at my shoes.
Oh, well then in Bright Star, who knows? Whatever. Wingtips is the answer. Okay, second one. What you get when trying to find a taxi in the rain?
Wet.
Flab fighters. Flab fighters. What's flab?
Fat.
W.
Sumo wrestlers.
Weight Watchers.
Oh, fighter like they're...
Fighters.
Okay, my mind went like, I'm going to
Fat fighter. Okay.
Yeah, like sumo wrestlers. They're
fighters who are fat. No.
Yeah.
Fighters who fight fat.
Okay, Weight Watchers. That's okay.
Okay. Bird with a nasty cough.
A woodpecker? A wobbler?
Whooping crane.
Anyway.
Okay. Breakfast on the fence.
Waffles?
Yes, waffle. If you waffle, you're on the fence about something.
Oh.
What the moon might do to protect your car.
I have no idea.
If it's not waning.
Waxing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wax. Wax is applied to the car so that it's protected. Okay. Splintered 5-cent piece.
I have no idea.
Wooden nickel.
Okay, this is stupid. Come on.
You just think it's stupid because you're getting them wrong.
Who would know what a wooden nickel is?
You've never heard of wooden nickel? Anyway.
No.
Okay. The Constitution's Once Upon a Time.
We the people.
Yes.
Okay.
He sometimes gets tipped unless he's dumb.
Waiter?
What?
A waiter?
Waiter, yes. Cathedral of Song.
A whistle? I don't know.
Winchester. I think the purple side is supposed to be the hard side.
You definitely get in the purple side now.
Okay, go ahead. Hit me.
No.
No, what?
I'm not going to give you the purple side.
Why?
You're not going to get them.
Just give it to me.
Okay. Not counting the spare tire, how many wheels does a car have?
4?
No.
How many wheels does a car have?
Yeah. Not including the spare tire, how many wheels does a car have?
4.
5.
Oh, because it's a tire, not a wheel. Duh.
No, you steer with one. A steering wheel.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Anyway.
So your letter is W.
W. Okay.
Okay.
We both had W then. Okay.
Yeah. Pale Soviets drink.
White Russian.
Okay. Merry ones don't wear black.
Wedding dress?
No.
Married ones don't wear...
Merry. Happy. Merry.
Merry ones don't wear black. Widow.
Yes. You can buy bays, bows, or double hung when doing this.
You can buy bays, bows, or what?
Double hung when doing this.
Window shopping?
Yes.
Okay. What? The word hung?
Double hung?
Double.
All right. Pete Townshend might be in this volume of famous people.
In this volume of famous people. Who's who?
Yes, thingamajig.
Whatchamacallit?
Dandelion decapitator.
Weed whacker.
What self-pitying pigs do?
Wallow.
Bunny from Wales.
Wales or whales?
Wales.
Wales.
Like Wales.
Bunny from Wales.
Yes.
What do they call a rabbit in England?
A rarebit.
Huh?
A rarebit. It's a Welsh rarebit. Rarebit.
Oh, a Welsh rarebit. Okay.
Cart, ferris, or chair.
Cart what?
A cart, ferris, or chair.
Wheel.
Okay. When you learn military intelligence, or where you learn military intelligence.
West Point.
Okay. Well, you won that one. You're definitely smarter than me on Trivial Pursuit.
That's right. Trivia. I'm a former team trivia champion, or member of a team trivia champion team. Shout out to the Breakfast Club. Whoop whoop.
Congratulations.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for episode 1. We hope you join us next time. See you then.
Bye.
You have been listening to From Art to Atoms, the Ultimate Curiosity Show, episode number 1. Your hosts are Michael Folse and myself, Brandon Shoemaker. The show is produced by me and is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the show to stay up to date on all of our latest episodes and news. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggested topics you'd like for us to dive into, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email us at FromArtToAtoms@gmail.com. We would love to hear from our listeners, and we value your input. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on upcoming episodes and behind-the-scenes content. You can find us on Instagram at From Art to Atoms. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach even more interested minds like yours. Thanks for tuning in, And stay curious, everyone.